So in 2018, there was a large evaluation of student wellness, and many of you know it was called the MedStar evaluation, and there was a report that came out with some recommendations for our community and for our school system. And one of the recommendations was to really help bolster up the overall universal supports that we give to all students. And one of the key recommendations in that area was to provide students with mental health literacy. So that is real kind of the long journey that we've been on to bring this specific curriculum to our students. There can be some discomfort in bringing up the topic of mental health in schools. And so I wanted to just briefly talk about what mental health literacy is. So mental health literacy by definition is the knowledge and beliefs about mental disorders which aid in their recognition, management, and prevention. It's a literacy program that's relevant for students, for parents, and for staff. It encompasses understanding how to foster and maintain positive mental health, understanding mental health disorders and their treatments, decreasing stigma around mental health challenges, and understanding how to seek help effectively. And that's actually really one of the focal points of the curriculum, is helping students to understand how to get in touch with help or put their peers in touch with help as soon as possible. We went on a little bit of a journey to get the curriculum to the high school. So in this infographic, you'll see the circled youth mental health first aid, or youth MHFA, was offered to all Massachusetts schools last year for free. So the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and coupled with the Department of Mental Health, actually provided training to all staff across the state. We were able to actually take advantage of that training, and we were able to get, if you follow the arrow to the right, 10% of Martha's Vineyard Regional High School staff trained, which allowed, that is actually the benchmark to be able to bring teen mental health first aid into our school. So Amy, Matt, and myself were trained for a 3-day training with the National Council of Mental Wellbeing. And we now can bring the curriculum into our classes. So we chose the health class because it seemed like a natural fit for this type of a training. We have to give it to all of at least one grade level, and it can only be given to grades 10 through 12. So we chose 10th grade in discussion with Sarah Dingleday, and really kind of looking at the overall health curriculum, when that would be best to administer. Oops, sorry, I'm going in the wrong direction. Okay, so in doing so, there's really mental health literacy it's a suite of trainings that promote mental health first aid is a suite of trainings that promotes mental health literacy. So on the left-hand side of this triangle, you'll see youth mental health first aid. So we as adults that work and interact with youth, we would take advantage of youth mental health first aid for our own training to get to strengthen our own skills in identifying and getting youth in connection to supports. However, on the right-hand side is a peer model, and that's the teen mental health first aid, and that we're bringing into the high school. And that really is teaching peers to identify signs of challenges that their peers might have and know how to navigate getting them some support. So on the left-hand side, I just want to let you know, we are going to have ongoing opportunities, not only just for staff to continue to take advantage of youth mental health first aid, but we're going to be offering it to parents for free as well. So that's going to be coming down the pike. So tonight we'll talk about teen mental health first aid. And as Matt said, it's an evidence-based training that is sponsored by the National Council for Behavioral Health, which is now called the National Council for Mental Wellbeing. So you'll see that change. So why teen mental health first aid at MVRHS? Overall, the reason why high schools are bringing teen mental health first aid into their curricula is that half of all mental illnesses begin by the age of 14, and 75% by the mid-20s. About 70% of teens with a mental health challenge do not receive the care they need. And suicide is still remaining the second leading cause of death for 15 to 24-year-olds. And that holds pretty still regardless of background or demographic. And teens prefer to share their problems with peers. So it's a natural fit for peers to be able to help peers. And then in 2018, during that evaluation, we actually, MVRHS and MVPS middle schoolers actually advocated that they wanted more support with identifying, understanding mental health, and then also knowing how to get their own supports. So this is another effort to kind of listen to the student voice. Like I said, the Department of Education really sponsors it. And just to reiterate, there was no specific problem that occurred at the high school. That is the reason why we're bringing it. It's really an overall, as a promotion, curriculum to support students. So I'll be really quick here and just, we're bringing it to the 10th graders this year. You'll see next year, we're gonna do 10th and 12th grade. So really by 2023, all of the high school will have had a chance to move through the teen mental health first aid curriculum. It's delivered in 6 45-minute classes. There's always 2 adults in the classroom, at least 1 instructor, and then another adult just to help kind of like facilitate the room. The guidance counselors in the school and the school counselors are available and on standby and know when it's being taught. There's a personal course book. I think Amy brought one that she might be able to show you, but you can always stop into the high school and see an example of. Students fill out an exit ticket at the end of every single class. So we do a little bit of a check-in. And then they receive a certificate of completion, which is actually really cool. One of the pieces of being able to help youth identify where to kind of help their friends get in connection with adults that can support them was to last year develop this I Care kind of web page that has Amy's face on it, it has Matt's face on it, it has our school nurse. It really has the broader mental health supports in the school, and then some additional local and state like hotlines and things like that that students can get to. So the QR code, they just have to scan it, they see it in the hallways, and it's kind of a really fast way for them to access where some of those supports can be found. The actual strategy that students, the 10th graders, are going to be learning is this acronym right up here, which it really isn't an acronym. The one for the adults is ALGE, and it's a little bit different for the teens, but it's look for warning signs, ask how they are, listen up, help them connect with an adult, and then expressing how important their friendship is. So this is really essentially what the students are going to be learning. So we wanted to provide you a brief overview of what the actual curriculum looks like. So everyone's going to access the curriculum through 1 class a week over 6 weeks, from 11-15 till winter break. And this is the actual sequence in which we will cover topics. So we cover what are mental health challenges in the first session, what is appropriate help, what does that look like, helping a friend in crisis, specifically related to suicide, helping a friend in crisis related to bullying, self-injury, panic attack, and violence. And then the 5th session is helping a friend in crisis, substance use, and helping a friend who might be developing a mental health challenge. And then we end with a really positive class around recovery and resilience, and then there's a graduation. So on this screen, you'll see a brief just kind of snapshot of some various other key points that we emphasize. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see the example of an exit ticket that the students will fill out at the end of each class and will be reviewed before they even leave. And there's an opportunity for them to identify if they want to talk to somebody before the end of the day. I'm going to actually briefly go over this and just remind you that if you did want to take advantage of youth mental health first aid, there will be an opportunity for parents to do so. This is another example of the posters and signage that you'll see around the high school, letting students know that who the mental health first aiders are in their school. So the teachers and the staff that have been trained to be able to put them in contact with supports. And then that's it for a presentation. And I will open it up to Amy and Matt for questions.
I didn't really have a question, but I did go on that QR code, and that's amazing. I think that's super helpful. And there'll be posters around with that in the building. I'm impressed. It's great.
Okay. Sarah?
Hi, I just have a question. So the students are going to have a workbook, right? That comes with the course. So my question is just in terms of privacy for them. Like, is this something that, is it a book that they'll carry with them at school? Is somebody holding on to it? Like, how is that going to work?
So I can answer that one if you want, Matt and Amy. The workbooks will stay with us throughout the 6 weeks, and then they get to take them at the end. And you're more than welcome to actually preview the workbook, but the information that's in the workbook, the only real personal pieces that the students would write down might be like identifying somebody who is close to you that you're comfortable talking with. Other than that, it's not really personal information that we're asking them to write down. It's more of like skill-based. Go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, well, there is a section when we're talking about getting help where they have to do it's called a self-love action plan. And it's really just things they do to nourish themselves and take care of themselves. And then a section about their circle of support. But to answer your question, Sarah, we'll be holding on to these. Nobody's going to see them. We're not even going to go through them. We hand out those exit tickets at the end of every class, and it asks kids if they need a check-in right then and there. And if not, it's always a reminder that Matt and I are available throughout the day if they need to come in after, if they're worried about themselves or if they're worried about a friend.
Can I just follow up with a second question while I have it at the top of my mind? So during the course of this, if somebody, comes to you and, some of the topics are obviously pretty intense, so will parents be informed if there's anything going on with their kids that comes out of this, or is there a plan in place for a pathway if something like that should come up?
Yes, I can take that one. Yes. And just so you guys all know, and we always have, we're just as part of our just general practice. We're mandated reporters. So if there's anything that, where we are learning that, somebody is, at risk of hurting themselves or others, or there's some kind of danger going on in the area, we swoop right in and, go with our protocols from there. So, and I think that's what's going to be great about that's what I think is so great about the exit tickets and how well researched all this stuff has been, that they've been able to do this, nationally. And, of course, for us, it's going to be our first time, but, I think it's so, what's the word I'm looking for?
Thorough.
Thorough.
There's a lot of words.
Yes. No, seriously, it is. It's almost scripted, in some ways, that it's very, regimented and documented. It's good.
It's designed, Sarah, to this really helped. So it's designed for anybody, really, like all of the mental health first aid trainings, anybody could take them to be certified. And it's really kind of the idea of the fact that you could take a first aid course right? And you could learn CPR and you could learn the basic skills of getting somebody to get to help as fast as you possibly can. Like a CPR course, I mean, a first aid course isn't going to give you a license to necessarily practice medicine or anything like that. So that's exactly kind of how the development of this curriculum was built. And it's skill-based. So students are not, we will not be encouraging students to share in that way during class. It'll be talking kind of about like utilizing the skills and how do you find information and what do the warning signs look like. But they're also told that there's always an opportunity for them to walk out if they need to, and that there will be a protocol that we have to follow, that there's a counselor that's available if they need to, because something could touch upon anything for them. So Amy and Matt and the counselors will all be in full circle for that.
Yeah. And really, Sarah, the bottom line is if a student comes to us and they are worried about themselves, in the sense of self-harm, non-suicidal, self-injury, or suicidal thinking, we will absolutely be contacting parents before the student leaves the building that day. We actually, our protocol is we will hold kids after school until we can get in touch with the parent. We would never let a student leave that we were concerned with that way. And if they come to us concerned about a friend, we would pull the friend in and practice the same protocol.
No, that's a great explanation. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. And for me, I will just say, I am really looking forward to this because, you know, I feel like I say this a lot, but we as the adults in the building, we think we know a lot about what's going on. And I know parents think they know a lot about what's going on, but the people that know the most are the peers. And so to give them this basic training, which is not about, you know, going in and rescuing anybody, it's eyes and ears on the ground for us throughout the school day, at night, on the weekends. And I imagine that our referral process is going to shift back to kids referring kids. Many years ago, we ran a program. I actually think Lila was the last class that took it. It was called a peer outreach program. And it was basically this, but only for 50 kids a year. And this is the entire sophomore class, which is 192 kids. And to Kim's point, next year when we have the 3 grades trained, that's just what we need. We need these kids looking out for each other and coming to us or to a trusted adult to get help when they need it.
So this may be like thinking way too far ahead then for what I'm going to ask, but so if that happens, which I actually think that's wonderful. I think it's great to have everybody like sort of caring for one another and looking. Do we have the counseling staff and resources that we need if you see an increased shift in kids needing help? That's what I think I'm worried about.
I mean, I think we could all answer that, but I'll let somebody else take that.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Amy or Matt.
yeah, I mean, I think every day we're getting better. I mean, I will say Amy and Kim, you can chime in. I mean, we're just having conversations today about this. I think there wasn't many great things that came out of a pandemic, but I think one of them was this whole telehealth model. So it has expanded our ability to connect families to off-island resources. Obviously everyone knows we are limited on island, the amount of adolescent clinicians, psychiatry or psychology, on the Vineyard, but that is improving. We're always building new connections, every day. And we have been able to find some, good resources off island, that some are actually taking advantage of in person, but I'd say 95% of them are taking advantage of it through telehealth.
And I think I would also say too, is that not every youth that needs support is necessarily going to need counseling, right? Like we want to get them early when they're experiencing stressors and know how to identify that within themselves. And then also sometimes it's just having a connection with somebody else that will listen to you that is going to make it feel better. So we're trying to put a stronger basis in for that support infrastructure before it necessarily has to be an even larger counseling need than we already have.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, Catherine?
So just help me clarify, this is happening during the health class? So the gym health teacher is the person who's leading this, the kids through this?
No, so Kim, Matt, and I are all certified, and we've split the classes. We had to split the classes. Matt and I aren't teaching it all together because one of us always has to be available if somebody steps out. And as the two licensed mental health people in the building, so that's us. So I'm teaching 3 classes, Matt's teaching 3 classes, and Kim's teaching 3 classes. We are overlapping because we're experimenting. Like there's like A block, for instance, there's 2 classes that meet. So we're going to have one large group for at least the first session to see how it goes. And then like my smallest class is like 15 or something like that. So, and the PE teacher will, like Madison Strauss, will also be in the room, but just to help us, facilitate if need be, because she knows the kids far better than we do.
And we can't teach it to, there's a specific amount of students that we have to cap out at. So the National Council really makes sure that we keep it into a limited number. So we had to kind of split it up. It's not like we could take like an assembly of kids and actually go through the curriculum.
So my next question is, what about the kids who are currently vulnerable and experiencing their own personal issues that may or may not yet be addressed, and feel super raw and sensitive to being made to discuss these issues in a more public forum than maybe they've ever had the opportunity to before? Like what options do those kids have?
So we are actually meeting with the entire sophomore class on Wednesday for our annual anti-bullying skit that they didn't get to appreciate last year during COVID. So we'll have the entire sophomore class at the PAC, and we're going to do a quick run through of this. And so we'll explain it all to them. We did send a letter home with an opt-out option. I don't think we've gotten any yet, but at the beginning of every class, we will be talking about stepping out if you need to step out. And you don't have to tell us even if you're, why you're stepping out, except one of us will quietly follow because of that vulnerability piece. And really it focuses so much on helping others.
So I was just gonna
I'm hoping that's not going to be a huge issue. I mean, there's 190 kids in the class, so I'm sure there's going to be a few that are going to feel vulnerable, but like in anything we tell them, we'll do trigger warnings at the beginning of every class.
Yeah. And there's a lot of stuff throughout each session that, just reiterates in various different ways that this is not a self-help course. It's not their own, it is to what Amy just said. It's more about generalizing, mental health challenges and recognizing things and just being a good listener, and then how to go and find help. Obviously, because we're talking about mental health challenges and panic, and you just say the word panic attack, and that's gonna raise somebody's, radar. They're gonna perk up. But there is so many gentle and precautionary, measures, about like what's coming up.
Yeah, and the training, the curriculum really focuses on like hope and the positive aspects of self-care, as opposed to digging really in deep about mental health diagnoses. So it's definitely not in any way, shape, or form designed to help, like, and it's reiterated in every single class. We are training you to be first aiders, which means that you help identify signs and get your friends in touch with supports as fast as possible. You are not trained to do therapy, anything like that. So we reiterate that. And it really does. It's always focused on optimism, resilience, and and strengths as opposed to really focusing so much on reflecting on like mental health illness.
And just following up, I think as long as we continue to focus on peer health, I think sometimes it's always easier to help a friend than it is to help yourself.
Yeah.
And so I think perhaps that's the lure for kids who are having trouble, to be helpful to somebody else, not necessarily put themselves under a microscope.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think, Anne, just before you go, one of the things I'm excited about is, I realized today as I was watching kids walk in, how many students I don't know thanks to COVID. And so this gives us an opportunity to get to know, at least for me, like I'll get to know half the sophomores on a far more personal level than I would be able to otherwise. And as will Matt. And, Matt and I, whenever we have a new student come in to see one of us, we always bring him to the next office to just say like, and this is Matt. He does what I do. And if I'm not available, Matt's available, just so they know. And it's really just about destigmatizing it. So you struggle with anxiety, it's okay. Like if you need help with it, we're going to get you the help. And sorry, did you have something?
Yes. I apologize. I was like 15 or so minutes late so I missed the bulk of this. My question is, will the rest of the school know that the sophomores are going through this? And, in particular, the freshmen, I suppose I'm, thinking about. But so if I'm not mistaken, these are the first group of kids that are getting this training. And so they're going to be kind of the experts moving forward.
We'll call them ambassadors, Anne. Maybe not experts, but we'll go with
Ambassadors.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll say like, we're going to make a really big deal about this in a really positive way. And I found with kids, everybody's going to get a t-shirt at the end, and we're going to have a big pancake breakfast and a certification. They don't know any of this yet, but that's our plan, like to really celebrate them. So the whole, so the whole community, our whole community knows about it. And then other kids, this is how it works, right? Other kids are going to want to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Perfect. Okay. Great. Awesome.
There's so many unbelievable just testimonials from teens that the National Council has posted on their websites and everything like that. And it's just, it's pretty amazing. Just in general, how they feel like this is exactly what I needed. Like, it's just so nice to be able to be there for like my friends in a way that isn't uncomfortable for me when I know that they're struggling. And so I think I'm really excited for them. All right, well, you don't ever have to hesitate to reach out to any of the three of us. I definitely would recommend Matt and Amy, because they're in direct contact all the time with the students. But we're really excited, and we thank you for trusting us with your children and your students.
And the last thing I'll say is that Kim also mentioned, Kim is also now certified to
no treating
train members of the community. So there will be trainings available that we're hoping parents will take also. And we just build the network.
And we did record this, so you can go back, and we'll share it, so you can go back and you can see the earlier presentation.
And
Awesome.
Melissa, you're right. We may be inspiring the next generation because we're just about ready to retire. So
I'll cut it out. Well,
Yes.
yeah, this sounds great. I'm so happy that Samantha's going to be part of the ambassador year. So, yeah.
She's a pioneer. All right. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
And
Appreciate
have a
it.
great evening.
Great
You
night.
too.
take
Thanks.
care.
Keep up the work.
Thanks.